So there I am, they're going, we can hold you for 72 hours under Prevention of Terrorism Act. But you can't have a show tonight. Think of the order of the children.
Welcome to the Beyond the Classroom podcast with myself, David Easton, and the always energetic Andrew Chapman.
Hello.
We will take you on a tour beyond the four walls of the traditional classroom, into the lives of the teachers and support staff here at Burnley College. Join us as we explore the backgrounds and life experiences that have helped shape some of our most inspiring educators. Get ready to hear about their unique journeys, the challenges they've faced, as well as some of their best stories. Kicking off our podcast is the performing arts maverick, Russell Lane. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the wisdom beyond the classroom. Russell, welcome to Beyond the Classroom.
Thank you very much for having me, Dave.
This is our very first podcast. You are an enigma, to say the least.
This is uncharted waters.
It is. It's very true. So we're hoping to sort of find out about you, how you've become who you are now, how you've ended up here at the wonderful Burnley College, your backstory and all the craziness that you've done until this point.
Okay. What do you want to know? Captain?
Well, I already know that you were born in Birkenhead.
I was born in Birkenhead, the one-eyed city as it is referred to on Merseyside. Council estate kid, comprehensive school, all boys school, brutal, bit like Prison Break. That kind of environment, you kind of get the vibe. So I did all right at school, got me 8 what were called O-levels back in those days, because I'm very old now. At varying degrees, but I was quite pleased, since you could say my relationship with school wasn't brilliant. I think the only thing that kept me there was sport, because I used to be quite sporty when I was a teenager.
Keen rugby player? Keen football?
Played fly-half, little nippy fly-half, played a bit of footy, bit of cricket, tennis, but running was my thing. Sprinter, I was a sprinter. Ran for county, 100 metres, 200 metres.
Wow. Still run now?
No. Barely move. No, I don't. I kind of gave that because I was up for going to kind of national trials when I was 16, I think it was 16, and I was out playing footy with my mates the night before and busted all the ligaments in my ankle. So that was the end of that. The coach wasn't very pleased.
Oh dear.
And that was the end of an Olympian career.
So you walked out with your 8 O-levels?
Yeah.
And you went to college?
I did. I went to Birkenhead College, mate.
That is how they pronounce it.
Yeah. And did some A-levels there, did 3 A-levels, did English Lit, did History and Español, Spanish.
Well, ¿cómo estás?
Sí, muy bueno, gracias, ¿y tú?
Ah, sí.
So it's interesting that isn't anything you currently teach?
No. I had not even considered performing arts, theatre, anything like that. So I went off to uni, went to Lancaster University, primarily to do English Lit and History, but I had to choose a 3rd subject in my first year. So I chose theatre, drama. That's a bit like English Lit, plays and that, isn't it, really? Because we didn't do drama at my school, being an all-boys, brutal environment. It just wasn't allowed, no fun here. And just within 2 or 3 weeks of doing that, I just went, this is what I want to do with my life. I found my family.
Light bulb moment?
Yeah, a bit, yeah. So I dropped the history at the end of the first year and did theatre studies and English Lit at Lancaster. It was literally found my people, in a way.
So what was it? You went in and what suddenly made that click?
Well, I think there was a little bit from when I was doing my A-levels, because my English tutor at college, we were doing some Shakespeare and we were doing a John Osborne plays, set text and a bit of Sean O'Casey, Irish, Dublin trilogy. And he used to kind of divvy parts out in the room, can you read this character, you read that character? And he just pulled me on, he went, yeah, you're quite good at this, aren't you, reading? reading. I'm quite good at reading. Well, thanks, sir. Thank you very much. He said you're quite good at, just sight reading and putting a bit of character into it. And I was like, all right, okay. Fair enough.
So what was your first performance, like on stage? What was your first ever performance?
That would have been first year university, and it would have been the end of my first year show, Rocky Horror Show.
Wow, brilliant.
Yeah.
Love that.
And I was, what's his name? Servant. What's he called? The butler. Riff Raff. Yeah, I was Riff Raff in that. Yeah, which was, good fun. So that was my first treading of the boards in that sense. And then it was meant, we did kind of a lot of Shakespeare and classic texts, and took some shows up to Edinburgh, which was brilliant. That was an amazing experience. One of my tutors, Dave Llewellyn, Lou, hello Lou if you're watching or listening, major influence on me, and we're still good mates now. Saw him years later, both creeping towards our dotage. But he got the rights to do a Spike Milligan novel called Cocoon, which is set in Ireland. It's a kind of surrealist. It's about the partition of Ireland, the creation of Ulster in 1922. But it's just about this cast of characters who live in this small village near Sligo on the border called Cocoon, and it's all these weird and wonderful characters. So we took that up to Edinburgh. I think there was 10 of us in it. No set, just 10 chairs and us 10 actors, and we got nominated for Fringe Firsts and all that kind of stuff, which was great for a bunch of, students. And that kind of made me think, you can make theatre with nothing, just people and a chair or whatever. You don't need all the frippery that goes around it particularly. So that inspired me to go off to Paris when I left uni. Paris! To do a course with this guy who's dead now, God rest his soul, called Jacques Lecoq. Quite a humorous name, obviously.
He said it.
So I did like a clown course and a physical theatre course and a bit of mime training and all that, and then came back, moved back, settled in Liverpool, didn't go back to Birkenhead, no chance, the wasteland. So I had some mates in Liverpool already because I used to go and watch music when I was a teenager. So we used to go get the night bus home and go to Eric's, which was a big punk club in Liverpool in the late 70s. So went back and went, let's make a theatre company, and that's kind of what we did. 3 of us in a Renault 5 hatchback. It's the French themes running through this, isn't it?
I like it.
And that's what we toured in. There was 3 of us. So there was me, Jane, and Wendy. Wendy was the director, and she also did the lights and stuff. And me and Jane were the performers. Renault 5 hatchback, 2 chairs in the boot. Off you go. And that was us.
Wow.
And then we used to take shows up to Edinburgh every year and get tour bookings on the back of that, and that would kind of keep us ticking over for next year. And we did that for 4 or 5 years, I guess, as a little company. And then we merged with a bigger company called Caboodle, and that's when things kind of went a bit bonkers, really, because we were the darlings of the Arts Council for about 6 years. And they just sent us all over the world. Go to this festival, go to that festival.
It sounds difficult.
It's so hard. But it was rock and roll because the company were a bit mad. They were kind of came out of this 70s alternative theatre scene, so they were all just on the edge of being rational. And we did some absolutely bonkers work. Did a lot of classic texts, a lot of Shakespeare and stuff like that, but we were good.
So how often were you going out, and where were you going?
Well, we taught, we kind of rehearse a show over the summer. That's general rehearsal time. 6-week rehearsal over the summer, then we take it on tour nationally. through to kind of from September through to Christmas, have a little break over Christmas, back out January through to June. So you're on the road quite a lot. This is why it's a bit rock and roll, because we had a big van with a cab on the front, so get 10 of us in the cab and, you know, eating curry for breakfast and all that kind of stuff, and cold pizza. Like that.
So was this during, now, for the viewers, there's a fantastic picture which we're going to put up on screen.
Which one?
You during your Wallace and Gromit days.
Oh, Wallace and Gromit days. That's leaping forward.
Oh, is that
in
leaping
time.
forward?
Leaping
Wow,
forward
okay.
Many.
So you did these tours, did you give us highlights of places you went to?
Highlights of places we went to. San Diego was good. Quite a good crack over there. Baltimore, different.
Wow.
But I just thought I like Liverpool, Baltimore, to be honest. It has a similar vibe to it. Port and, you know, a bit crazy. Scallies everywhere, mate. Big hoodies or not like. Melbourne Festival was quite good. Singapore, bit mad. Smoky, very smoky. You know. But yeah, just all over the place really. It kind of all becomes a bit of a blur.
You must have some crazy stories from these travelling.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I can talk about it.
Are there any that you...
What happens on tour stays on tour, you know, it's one of them. I did get arrested once
That we have to hear that.
by a special branch.
Even better.
Yes. And this is part of the Wallace and Gromit tour, because that was a massive big thing, obviously, because it was Wallace and Gromit and I was playing Gromit, so brilliant, no lines to learn. Ace.
Picture on screen, right?
And it was a collaboration between loads of mates I'd worked with in the past, and Andy Dawson got the rights off Nick Park to kind of do it, because he'd done some work with him on, I think it was a Grand Day Out. He'd done some work with him about physical movement, because he's kind of, that's what he teaches, physical theory and stuff. So he gave us the rights, and we were on tour, doing a national tour before it went to the West End, and etc. etc. So we'd been in Belfast for a week, doing it at the Opera House there, and we were going on to Southampton after that, to the Mayflower Theatre in Southampton. We've got a flight from Belfast Airport to Southampton Airport, because we're dreadfully parked. None of this ferry nonsense, leave that to the other. So we land in Southampton, going to pick our bags up, walking through, and I'm approached by a couple of fellas and went, "Excuse me, would you mind just coming with us, please?" I'm like, yeah, fine. So we go to this little back office, close the door, and I'm thinking, this is a bit dodgy, this, isn't it? What's going on here? And they went, "Hello, we're special branch." Right, okay, good. That's nice for you. They thought, it came to pass, that I was a UDA gunman, terrorist. Yeah. And the reason this happened was because my name's Russell Lane. Yeah, that's on my passport. But my equity name, and for people who don't know this, if there's somebody else with your given name, you have to change your name. So, my equity name was Russell Edwards, family name, from Welsh side. So, on the ticket, it's booked as Russell Edwards, who is a UDA gunman.
Wow.
Wanted gunman, right? So, of course, they're looking at the flight manifest and going, got him. So there I am, they're going, "We can hold you for 72 hours under the Prevention of Terrorism Act." But you can't have a show tonight. Think of the order of the children. So by this time, I think they'd cottoned on that I wasn't a UDA assassin.
You weren't giving off that vibe.
No. Darling, oh my God. What will my mother think? So yeah, they can't, and they were like, "Okay, where are you on?" "I'm going to Mayflower Theatre in Southampton." "What part are you playing?" "Gromit."
Love that.
So that went down really well because they're having to record all this as well because obviously they've hoyed me in. So they're having to write in a little notebook. Draw me. You know, it's bizarre. So they went, have you got someone who can vouch for us? I said, yeah, they're all out there. They're waiting for me because we're just jumping in a minibus and they're taking us to the hotel and then we're going theatre to do sound check and all that business. So of course I walk out and they're all there, all the cast and the crew. Do you know this fella? No, never seen him before in my life. Don't know who he is. I'm like, not now. Really, just not now is not the best time to be doing this, ladies and gentlemen. But they did see the funny side of it, so yeah, they eventually let me go.
So somewhere in the halls of documents in MI5, MI6 Special Branch, there is Russell Lane arrested as Gromit. Arrested as Gromit.
You know, they told that story billions of times as well, haven't they?
Probably.
Yeah. They've dined out on that many times, I'm sure.
Yeah. So yeah, this bizarre stuff like that happens when you're on tour.
So when the days of Wallace and Gromit came to an end, what did you do?
I went off and worked in Spain for a couple of years as an actor with a Spanish company. Obviously, my being able to speak a bit of Spanish helped, even though I'd not really done it since I was at tech college many years before. I went and worked with this bunch of absolute barn pots in Madrid. They were just off their nut. Completely. Did a show called 666. That gives you a bit of clue about the material. Which they wanted to take to Edinburgh, but they wanted to get a British cast to do it at Edinburgh Festival because they've been touring it all around Spain and Europe with the Spanish cast, which seemed a bit bizarre because there's no actual language in it. There's an invented language, which is you know what I mean? But they wanted a British cast. So we took that up to Edinburgh and that was brill. And then we toured it all around Spain and we did a bit around Europe with it. And then off to South America with it. Because of course the Spanish company did Argentina and Ecuador and Brazil and Mexico. Mexico's mad. But not as mad as Guatemala. Guatemala is a crazy place, children. Take care if you go there. You just get people running out of bars and just firing guns off into the air. Going, and that's just like 10 o'clock in the morning. You're going for your coffee. Arriba! It's like a proper bandit country. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
18 months or so, touring that. And then I was getting married. Got married shortly after that, and that kind of, we were in Milan. And a week before I was getting married, so I'm phoning up Rachel, going, "Hello, darling, you alright? Everything okay? Well, flowers sorted and all that?" And I was like, "What am I doing? What am I doing here?" Existential crisis. Thought I need to be back there. This is crazy, and I've been doing it for 17 years, touring, I guess, and thought, do I want to settle down a little bit now? Because, we took kids and all that, and what if dad's off for 6 months on time? I'm going to miss the kids growing up.
Yeah.
So Rachel was an actor as well, but posh actor. She did lots of film and telly and radio. So obviously her earning potential was far more than mine, being, scruffy old theatre actor, not a two in, as they would say. So she carried on working for a little bit, and I went, right, I need to do something. I'll probably teach. I could do a bit of teaching, because we always did workshops if we were touring. We'd go to schools or colleges, universities, and do some practical workshops with students. So I thought, I quite enjoy that. Quite fun. So, applied to do a PGC in Goldsmiths down in London. Dead posh. And going back to that in your 40s with all these, kids who are just, we want to be teachers. Like, who's the old fella in the corner? Kind of thing. So that was a bit weird, but I enjoyed it and enjoyed my teaching practice and all that in down in the city of London, you know what I mean? I was like in the East End. I did my second placement. Again, that was eye-opening, boys' school. So there was all that stuff from my past about being in a boys' school, but we had a great time. Did Lord of the Flies as an enrichment school play. Yeah, it was great. Put 2 tons of sand in the school hall.
Cleaners were very happy.
Yeah.
Would you say there's a lot of crossover? So, as someone that studied like acting theories, like Stanislavski and stuff like that, is there a lot of crossover between that and then your teaching practitioners that you studied when you were at PGCE?
A bit, I guess. A bit. Not. They don't kind of completely align, I don't think. But you know, there's this theoretical stuff underneath all kinds of practice, isn't there? Really.
Did you find it easier to pick that up rather than someone who's brand new going into a PGC having a million names thrown at them?
I don't know whether it was that or whether I'd just been doing theatre for 17 years. I just kind of went, I know what I'm talking about.
But also, it's a performance, isn't it? You're standing up in front of a group and you're performing, aren't you?
To a certain extent, yeah. You know, before we all go home and weep in the corner, let our real selves out.
Do you remember the first lesson you ever taught?
As a qualified teacher or on my teaching placement?
Either.
Yeah, I remember my first lesson on my first PGCE placement, which was in a reasonably nice school. It was a bit out South London towards Croydon way, so it wasn't quite inner city, but it's just comprehensive high school. And it was absolute bedlam. Because you go in there, you go, right, sorted, I planned it, it's all tickety-boo, watertight. No, just fell apart within 5 minutes. You know what I mean? The kids were literally eating me. Going, fresh meat. It was like that. I was like, get them away. Is there a panic button anywhere in the room for it? Yeah, it was just horrible. But we reflect. Obviously, as part of our practice, don't we reflect and think, what happened there? Why did that go completely belly up? But yeah, it was horrible. I had that brief moment of going, have I made a big mistake?
It's a very unique death, dying on stage as a teacher. When you're dying on stage in front of a classroom, it's a very unique feeling.
Yeah,
and you've got, rather than the hundreds of eyes you're used to, you've got a very selective bunch, absolutely tearing you apart.
And they all know each other.
Yeah.
And they haven't paid to watch you.
No. And they don't know you, and you don't know any of them, because you're like, who the hell? And the odds are stacked with them massively. But you just got to front it out, haven't you? Swan on water. I'm absolutely fine. I'm dealing with this inside. I'm fine.
So did you obviously must have started using all your techniques from standing on a stage that worked and captivating an audience.
Yeah, stage combat came in very handy. For classroom management. No, I'm lying. I guess because you kind of, if you've got an audience, you kind of sense, are they with us? Are they against us? Do we need to pick the pace up here a little bit? Are we just basking in our own ego at this point? We can try and get rid of that and just focus on what we've got to do, which is basically you're doing a job, aren't you? You're doing a job in front of an audience and you're doing a job in front of students as well. So there are similarities. Yeah, and you kind of know things that will get people's attention or keep them focused a little bit. It's a little trick I used to do, which was... So, anyway, the thing that we need to do with this, and you see the whole room go... And then, I've got them now. because they're listening. They're actually listening now because they're having to work to A, hear what I'm saying and understand what I'm saying, but they're really, it's like kind of, what do they call it, active listening.
Yeah.
They're kind of there, aren't they? And they're really working and listening on it. So that was one that I used to use.
So you're living down south?
Living in the London, yeah, living in Peckham, mate, you know what I mean? Front line.
You're teaching?
Teaching.
You've got a family going?
Yeah, well, pregnant. And then we thought, do we want to bring our children up in Peckham? Maybe not. Because we were in a little flat, you know, because it's expensive living in the London. So we had a floor of a little Georgian terrace. Lovely little flat and everything. But 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 kitchen, 1 room, living room area. It was like, you're pregnant. Where's the baby going to live in this house? Well, let's buy a bigger house. No chance. Because it wasn't ours. We were rented. Because, you know, itinerant actors. No, we'll give you a mortgage. Just cannot get a mortgage if you're an actor. Because they're like, no. Regular money? No. So that was also part of the thinking about, I'll get a proper job. I'll go and get a proper job. So we decided to move back up north because Rachel went to university in Manchester. She went to Man Met. So we knew quite a lot of people in Manchester, quite a lot of people in Leeds. And we also knew some people who lived in Todmorden. So we went, should we go do some visiting? And well, that was quite nice, wasn't it? All the big green things, they're hills there, aren't they? Very nice. Yeah. So we went, should we do it? Shall we? So I applied for a job in Halifax, drama teacher. In high school, got it. I was like, oh, let's do it. So yeah, we did it. And that was my NQT year with a newborn baby, living in a place that I didn't know.
So nice and chill then, really, is what you're saying. You had a
very
relaxed
relaxed, yeah. Very relaxed. And then, so we rented for 6 months and then we bought a place in Todd. So I'm doing the house up in the evenings as well.
Blimey.
It's chronic tiredness. And it's never gone away all these years later.
We actually had to wake him up to get him on the podcast. Yeah. We rolled him in on the chair.
He's drinking Red Bull as we speak.
Yeah. You just can't see it.
It's in the drip.
So you do your NQT year?
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah. Can't remember anymore.
So did you stay on at that school?
I did 5 years there at that school, and then a job came up at Burnley College for a curriculum manager, performing arts. And I went, do you know what, I'm just going to have a go. I'm going to have a punt. Probably haven't got a hope in hell of getting it. Because, you know, secondary school, no experience of FE. School didn't have a sixth form. I thought, wow, come on. Carpe diem and all that, innit? Take a risk. I'm all up for taking risks. Because I think if you don't take risks, you don't move forward. So I went, go on, I'm just going to put an application in. I got the job. Damn fools. Well, that's another bunch I've conned. You know what I mean? And was there for another 6 years. I did that job, curriculum manager, 6 years. First year was like falling down a lift shaft.
Yeah.
Just occasionally stopping as you bounce off one of the walls and then off you go again. But learned so fast. And then just, it nearly killed me then, nearly finished me off. Just the amount of time. With 2 little kids as well, you know, I've got 2 kids by this time, growing up. And I'm out at 5:45 in the morning, getting home at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I just thought, it's not living. I'm earning all right, but what am I missing? And that was the whole point of packing in the acting, was to be with the family. So we had a chat and I thought, I can't do this anymore, it's just not what I want. So bailed. basically. Get notice and all that. And then just went back to a bit of freelancing for a bit, did a little bit of acting, a little bit of directing for a year or so, 18 months, a bit of supply teaching, which I loved.
Really?
Yeah. I just loved it.
Why?
Partly because you go in, do that, 3:30, 4 o'clock, you're gone. Yeah, and then you might be somewhere else next. It's a bit like touring again, I suppose, doing one night stands somewhere in clubs or whatever. But I also like going in and going, I have no idea what I'm going to be teaching today. Here's the cover work, on you go.
Did you see it as like improv?
A little bit. And again, it's this idea of risk. Going, I'm going to walk into a classroom of kids who have no idea who I am with a load of cover work. Let's see how this one pans out, shall we? But I had some great times, really good times, and because I just thought, because it was all secondary school, I was like, and you think you're mad? Just hold your beer. And I just had some joyous times teaching science. Yeah, I'm not a scientist, but if you can kind of teach, I think you can pretty much teach everything. It's like what they say about, if you can manage something, there's no reason why you can't manage another area or go into a different industry or whatever if you have those management skills. So I guess teaching's a bit the same. If you can, if you're on it and you've got to enjoy it though. You can't be just going, this is a bit of a grind. So I would just get quite excited in the morning. I went for the phone call from the agency, go, where are we going today? Well, this is going to be a laugh. And that's the way I approached it, is this is going to be fun. Because if it's dull, it's just, why bother? Really. Like Bill Hicks said, life's a ride. You only get one go, might as well enjoy it and have fun on the way. So yeah, I did that for about 18 months and then was working at doing some long-term cover at a place called Thomas Whittam, sixth form, used to be just up at Barden Lane.
Right on the corner from my house.
So they needed a drama teacher. I was teaching a bit of English at first, English language, resets for GCSEs. And they said, you're drama, you teach a bit of A-level drama. So I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah. So I did that, sort of a bit of history A-level as well. It's like, yeah. Oh, you did history at university, didn't you? Yeah, like 4,000 years ago. I am history now. But it was all right, it was fine. Just, again, you just, get the spec, find out what you got to teach, try and make it fun and interesting for the students. So yeah, I did that, and then a job came up here for a performing arts lecturer. Applied for it. Didn't get it.
Yeah.
No. I was thrown out of the building at lunchtime. Believe it, a man of my standing. Off you go.
Grave mistake.
So in the interviews with me were Poppy Ola and Mel Robbins, and they got posts. Let's see. So obviously I went home, got the amp and all that. Don't know what they're missing. The damn fools. And then I got a phone call from who was it? Head of division back then, would have been Karen. Gave me a call about 6 weeks after interview. I went, would you be interested? I don't take rejection well, darling. Would you be interested in doing some HE? Picking up a couple of hours a week. I was just working around the corner. I went, yeah, go on then. And that was where I started here, only doing about 4 or 5 hours a week. And then did a bit more on BTEC, and then a bit of mat leave for Poppy and Katie Lake when she was here. And then a bit of 6.5 contract, part-time hourly paid, you know, and I think I've been here about 5 years now, 5 coming on 6 years. So probably time for me to move again. That seems to be the pattern. 5 or 6 years, ta-ta.
That's good. You're not allowed. You have to stay. Lock the doors.
No, I couldn't start anywhere else now. No, this is me now.
How does this place differ from other ones? Because you work with quite a few different teachers places now.
Yeah, I did a bit at Oldham College as well, a bit of supply there, teaching media, level 2 media, performance for camera. I did an old BTEC spec about news reporting and working in the studio and that kind of stuff. It's good here. It's good. You know, they all have different things that are really good, and other things you go, well, that was better over there where they did this, or you know. But I like FE. I really like working in FE. I don't know why. It's just that 16 to 18, 19-year-olds. I just think they're hilarious. You know, they're just at that point where they're like, "Whoa!" There's just possibilities for them at that age.
And it's the fact we give them that freedom that they don't have in school. They suddenly have that in the personality.
Yeah, and you can just see them grow over time, over the 2 years.
Particularly what you teach.
I guess, but is it different than teaching something else? What you teach? I don't know. Don't know really. But it's great to see them become adults, isn't it? And then going, oh, I'm going to go off to uni and do this, and you go, yeah. Even if you don't want to go to uni, take a year out and do whatever, and you go, yeah, go do what you want to do. Don't, because my kids are like doing his eldest one's doing their A levels this year, and the youngest one's GCSE year as well. So you know, not very much stress in my household at the moment. But our Alex, the eldest, wants to take a gap year, and I had the initial thing, and things apparently gap year, but your life will be ruined. You must go. And then we had a chat about it, and he was like, "I've just had education up to here since I was 5. You know, this is 13 years of education." And he said, "I just want to get off that treadmill for a little bit." And I went, fair enough, fair play, because he wants to be a filmmaker. That's what he wants to do. So he said, I'm going to take a year and I'll get a job, or if I can get a job as a runner or whatever, brilliant. And just take that time to put a portfolio together of short films that he can. He's applied this year, and he's going to do the interviews and everything. See what happens, but he's pretty set on doing.
So all those years of teaching, you must have some funny stories.
No.
Not a single story. I don't believe you.
No. No stories at all. Okay, I'll do this one. I'm not sure how funny it is, because it's also a little cruel as well, but I think
we've accepted it's cruel though, it's okay.
But time has passed now. That young person is probably a thriving adult now. And this wasn't necessarily to do with me. It was when I was teaching in Halifax, and I had to cover, I think it was a design technology class one day. And I think they were year 9 D&T class in the workshop and that kind of thing. And this poor lad was just getting so wound up by just everything. I think just life, and he was on the point of exploding. And in the school they used to have, they did have beep, 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 because it did have its issues, you know, so you'd hit the button and literally the crash team would arrive. And the crash team made up of ex-rugby league players. Yeah. And this lad, he wasn't very big. He just wasn't very big at all. And they literally burst through the door. These two fellas are like 6 foot wide, and literally picked him up like an ironing board between the two of them. And I thought they were going to open the door with his head on the way out. But I managed to get there and open the door for them to kind of sweep him off down the corridor, still under their arms, through the school to what they would call, what was it called? Seclusion. Over there, for Yorkshire. Take him to seclusion. Fit day. See how they get on with that. But that was just like, not necessarily fun, but looking back on it, I was just like,
he thought he was having a bad day before you pressed that one.
yeah. And then he's me back in Southampton Airport.
Yeah.
Going, can you just come this way with us, sir? Yeah, poor lad. Poor lad.
Your career high.
My career high. I was going to say something that really very inappropriate. Spend most of my career high. Said it, just comes out, can't help it, sorry. My career high. There's been a few, to be honest. In terms of teaching?
Anything you want.
I think, in terms of teaching, I'll do two. I'll do theatre and I'll do teaching one. Teaching one, I think, would be putting on a show with some students from Thomas Whittam called Our Tommy. Right? It was a devised piece for their A-level, which we devised around Thomas Whittam, who was a real person and who won the Victoria Cross in 1917. He was a Burnley lad from Worsthorpe and became a local hero when he came back from the war in 1918, but died in poverty. Had to sell his Victoria Cross. Basically, the doors closed on him. He was like, yeah, he's our hero. Can I have a job? No. Nobody would help him at all. And he was killed in a motorcycle accident. So we told his story. 3 students, 3 lads. Couple of chairs, bit of this, bit of that. Got back to that kind of way of working. We toured it around schools. And I got a collaboration going with Imperial War Museum, British Legion, Muslim Heritage Museum in Manchester. And they came to Sixth Form, put a big exhibition up about Muslim participation in the First World War, because it's quite a large Pakistani Bangladeshi community up there. So it was a way of getting them to come in and going, oh, that could have been my great granddad, or and telling stories. And we gigged it at the Mechanics, and we put it on at the Mechanics, and we did the second half of the evening, and there's this fabulous folk band called Harp and a Monkey. Check them out. Local from Bury. They're brilliant. But they were doing a whole thing about kind of First World War songs, folk songs, and Martin, who's kind of band leader, I suppose, was doing his PhD in that subject at Manchester. So they did the first half of the show. They're in a 3-piece kind of folky band, and we sold it out, 600 odd people there. We had the British Legion turn up, they were all there with their flags. We had the Accrington Pals, regimental standard. It was just, oh my God, these old fellas. We had the, what is he called? The commanding officer of the Army North, really does feel boy. We had the Lord Lieutenant of Lancashire there, the Sheriff of Lancashire. We hopped and we knobbed with them, I'm telling you. Is that inappropriate? I don't know. But as I say, what happens on tour stays on tour. But we did, canapé and fizz, and it was just joyous for those 3 students to go out in front of a full house and meeting all these kind of the great and the good and all this. It was great. And then I got invited to meet the Queen after that.
Wow.
Yes, invited to a garden party down in a back house, Yeah. So that was.
What did she say to you?
Hello. And what do you do?
Oh, so I make a bit of theatre.
Oh, that's lovely.
And then you spent the rest of the time talking to the corgis?
Yeah. Brent met Princess Michael. She's a bit barking.
You've
Like
heard it
the
here.
corky.
You've heard it here. So the flip side of that, the joy story. What's the career low?
My career low, I think was one day when I was jobbing actor down in London, because obviously acting's not full time, is it? You know, unless you run your own company and then you can kind of sort it a bit, but it's never full time job, short term contracts, etc. So I was in one of those, you know, limbo, few months, got to get something, I'm going to pay me rent, all that kind of stuff. So I had loads of side hustles going on, like worked in bars and restaurants and call centres. Don't do it, kids. It's hell. Driving vans, you know, worked as a postie for a bit and all that. Don't do that either. Well, it's a great job, but brutal hours. And I was up for 4 auditions in one day. Didn't get any of them. That was a tough day. I think that was. Why do I bother with it? But you've got to get up the next day and go, right, we go again. Resilience, people, resilience. Yeah, that was a tough one. That just being rejected 4 times in one day. It's quite hard, isn't it? You know. But that's the life I chose for myself. So, c'est la vie, c'est la guerre.
What were you like as a student?
Horrible. Horrible. Work shy. Well, I wasn't work shy. I worked really hard, but I worked really hard on my theatre stuff. I'm talking about university years. I was rubbish at school because I didn't like it, because it was brutal, and you know, this was back in the day where they could still whack you with sticks and size 10 green flash and, you know, all that, and throw big wooden board dusters at you for target practice. It was just horrible. So I just used to vote with my feet most of the time. Go in, get me register mark, and then, where are we going? Let's get a ferry across the Mersey and go to Liverpool now for the day late. So yes, I was a bit of a skiver when I was at school. But I think, you know, I had a reasonable amount of stuff going on up here, so I could play the game with the exams and that kind of stuff. But I was just completely disconnected from school. Hated it. And then I ended up teaching in school, which is, you know, ironic. Yes. Sixth form, model student, because I was going, right, this is what I want to do. Yeah, because I took a year out before I went to tech college. I got a job, worked as a lifeguard. Best job I've ever had there. Brilliant. In an outdoor Lido.
Wow.
In a place called Hoy Lake, which is over on the Wirral. Great.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I was the coolest dude in town, man. Because I grew my hair a little bit long, you know, a bit of lemon juice in it. Blondie turning up on my motorbike. Hi, I'm your friendly neighbourhood lifeguard.
Wow.
Yeah. Which was great, but it was one of these kind of government schemes, you know, we'll pay you £40 a year and you'll go in and you'll work as part of the community. It was one of them. I went, yeah, I'll do that. So I did that for a bit. And then worked in an indoor pool after, went obviously middle of December in the outdoor Lido. It's a bit quiet today, lads. Yeah, doesn't it make any money? So yeah, I worked for a year and then went back to college because that's really what I wanted to do. But uni students, I was a bit, because theatre it was like a virus. It just kind of consumed me, and I was like, so the English lit kind of took a little bit of a side seat, I guess, because I was just in the theatre all the time, going, oh, let's do this, let's do that. Got a bunch of people to stay over one night. We snuck in there, turned all the lights off so we could stay in overnight. And overnight, because it was like this horrible purple colour, the studio, for some reason. So overnight we painted it black. Stayed up all night with rollers and paint and just painted the thing black. And then the staff walked in the next day and went, what the? Oh, it's actually rather good, isn't it? Yes, I think this works. They were kind of like paint all over us. And so yeah, I was obsessed with the theatre stuff, which probably meant I didn't get the best degree I could have because I let the English side of it slide a little bit. And also when my dad died when I was at uni as well, which was a bit, oh my God. Because, losing your dad at any time was tough. But I wasn't very old, I was only 20, so I was quite young, really. So yeah, I was never the best student, but if I got something that I really loved and was passionate about, then I'm all in with it. So same for you, if any students watch this, go all in, do something you love doing, that you want to do. Don't feel as though you've got to do a job just for the sake of doing the job, because you won't be happy. And as I said before, you only get one ride on this, and you've got to try and find your happiness in your life and especially in the work you do, because otherwise it's a long time till you retire. Not quite so long for me.
So that's education. Was there a teacher that really stood out during your education?
I think that two. Well, no, three. One in school was my PE teacher, Frank Pennington, because he was one of those who kind of just go, come here, lady, come here, lady, come over here. What's the matter? What's the matter? And he was a bluff Yorkshireman, you know what I mean? But he kind of saw that there was something in me to do sports-wise, and kind of pushed that as a way of, I don't know, it was my happy place, doing my sport with all this bedlam going on around me. And he was instrumental in kind of keeping me on that, school teams, the running, join a local rugby club and all that, because he used to coach there as well. So it was that kind of, and I would thank him for that. Tech College, yeah. Jerry Sanderson, who was the English lit teacher I talked about earlier. Enthusiastic, loved literature, and sparked my interest in reading plays, I guess, and said, "Oh, you're all right at this." So that was another. And then at uni, it'd be David Llewellyn. Just opened my, literally, if I could describe it, it's like he opened the top of my head, rummaged around inside with it, put it back on, and it was like I was a completely different person. Because he was just like, you are really good at this acting thing. You're really good at it. You should consider doing this as a job. And he was just inspirational and funny and inappropriate. Do you know what I mean? But because he was from a different generation. He was an old hippie. Yeah.
If you could offer one piece of advice to new teachers, what would it be?
Take risks and don't panic.
I love that. If you were 16, leaving school this summer, what course would you do at Burnley College?
Lifeguarding. Best job I've ever had. What course? Well, obviously I'm going to talk about performing arts.
Okay, so let's take that off the list. You can't do it.
You were eyeballing me going, esports.
I'm definitely not.
What course would I recommend?
What would you do?
What would you do?
What would I do?
You're 16 years old.
Right,
You're finishing school this summer.
Yeah.
What are you doing in September at Burnley College?
Oh, right, okay, brilliant. I'm going to go and do classics, weirdly, because it's part of the history thing, but it fascinates me, all that kind of the ancient world. And there's a bit of theatre in that as well, because that's where Western drama began, I guess. But yeah, because I think it was a bit, you kind of do your English and your history. Spanish was a bit of a wild card for me, but just to choose something that may not have any practical application in life, but I think you'd learn an awful lot from it about societies and people and the way the world works.
You've had a long day of work, and you're getting in late. What are you going to cook?
What am I going to cook? Oh, because I like a bit of cooking, you see. I do like a bit of cooking. If it's a quick meal, getting in, just some Thai noodles. Hot spicy, 10 minutes, bosh, bosh, bang, done. If it's more sedate, no, it's got to be noodles.
I like it. What's your escapism?
Escapism? What can I say? Fishing.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, coarse fishing. Not as in I go and swear at fish.
How often do you do that?
Oh, whenever I can.
Right.
Not so much in the winter. And
I've had a bit of a bad recently, so that's kept me out of it.
but I will go fishing in the winter, put me all my thermals and my waterproofs on and get a brolly up and go and sit by some water for a few hours. Doesn't matter if I don't catch anything. If I catch some, it's a bonus. Just being out, quiet contemplation.
There's some nice fishing spots near you, to be fair.
There is, yeah. But once we hit kind of March, any opportunity. Sometimes I'll just throw my gear in the back of the car and go straight from work on the way home, just for a couple of hours, just to sit and all peaceful, quiet, till that float goes woof, and then it's absolute mayhem for 10 minutes.
I like that. Right, okay, random question. There's a zombie apocalypse. You've decided to lock yourself in nice and safe in Burnley College. You're allowed one album that's going to be stuck on the college radio station, played over and over. You're allowed one famous person to be with you.
Okay.
You're allowed one possession and one book. So, what album's on the radio station?
Remaining Light by Talking Heads.
Okay. Who's the famous person?
Famous person. I think I would choose Crazy Horse, Native American chief.
Yeah, I didn't pick you.
I'm not famous.
Second on the list.
Famous, obviously, I would have thought. One possession.
One possession. That's hard, isn't it?
It is, that's a tricky one, isn't it?
One possession. What would I take? God, that's really hard. Video camera.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So I could just, wander around the college just filming.
Filming zombies, aren't we?
Yeah. Be a bit like, what's the film? Was it Shopping Mall? Is that the film?
Dawn of the Dead.
No, there's another one that it's David Cronenberg with the killer robot, security robots with his mid-80s schlocky kind of.
Videodrome, was it?
No, that's another one of his.
Yeah.
But anyway.
One book.
One book. Complete works of Shakespeare.
Is that one book?
Well,
Yeah.
Is that book singular?
Yeah.
And book?
About that. But
take it. It's a good one. And your last question is a question we ask everyone from Burnley College Media, which is, what's your favourite cheese?
Manchego! De España!
Wow.
Russell, we could talk for hours. There's so many other stories. And
talk for hours.
you talk so well explaining all the stuff that you've done. It's been
Verbal
fascinating.
diarrhea.
You do get your free chocolate bar as a thank you for doing the Beyond the Classroom
Ladies and
podcast.
gentlemen, what a man.
This is the best fee I've ever had for a gig, this. I'm telling you. It's good, thank you.
I think there's so much more we can talk about. We'll probably get you back in at some point and delve deeper on some of the...
Yeah, Ruth Davis was talking about having an evening with Russell Lee.
Oh, I love that idea.
Where I just...
I'd be there.
Talk rubbish.
Let's go pre-book now. It's been fascinating. Thank you so much. Cheers, Ross. Thank you, Russell.
Well, that's our first Beyond the Classroom. Wasn't Russell fascinating? I could talk and listen to him for hours. My personal highlight is picturing Russell with long hair arriving on a motorbike to be a lifeguard. What were your highlights? Please feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and please join us for the next Beyond the Classroom.